everybody, my name is Ariella and I'm a Teen Services Librarian with Fresno County Library, and this is Cooking Level 0. If you guys don't get the reference, Kung Fu Panda. What we're going to do is each month we're going to be creating a cooking video that will take you through the bare basics of cooking, so one subject at a time, very, very basic. This month we're focusing on the most essential part of cooking, measuring. So please take a moment first to erase from your brain every time you have seen somebody eyeball it on TV or YouTube. Done? Okay, thanks. Off we go. Okay, so first let's start off with a very simple question. Why do we even bother measuring? Well, it's really simple, but also kind of complex because cooking in and of itself is equal parts math, chemistry, art, and alchemy. You basically take a bunch of different proportions of a bunch of different ingredients, you put them together and you cook them in a certain way, and it comes out as something hopefully delicious and amazing and totally different. At the same time, if you mess up these proportions, you're going to end up with something new but probably yucky and hopefully not explosive. So yeah. But don't let that scare you, because I'm going to make this super easy. We're going to have this recorded so you guys can watch it over and over again, and will be available if you guys have questions, so no worries. And also, here's another tip. A lot of beginner recipes are built with a lot of wiggle room in them, so that even if you are off slightly on an ingredient, it probably won't ruin the entire thing. So please just do your best, but please don't stress. And that's also where the art comes in, because once you've mastered a recipe and figured out where you have that wiggle room and what changes you can make it more personalized to you and make it something you'll really, really enjoy. Okay, so the first thing we want to cover is going to be our dry measuring cups. So these are what you're going to be using to measure out things like flour and salt and cornstarch and baking soda and sugar and stuff like that. You're also going to possibly use it for things that are like semi-liquid, like coconut oil, sour cream, and yogurt and things like that. But for the most part, you're going to be using it for things like flour. And what's important to know about these, the most important thing to know, is that when you measure something out of this, you're going to make it heaping over the top, but then you have to level it. And leveling it, all you have to do is take something with a straight edge. Right now, all I have is a spoon, but it has a straight edge. And you're just going to run it across the top to create a flat surface on the top, so you have exactly the amount you need for your recipe. Another thing that's important to know is that some ingredients like cornstarch or salt or things like that could be measured out directly from their container, and they sometimes even have a little leveler built into their container, so you don't have to have a separate leveler. But at the same time, you also don't want to measure them over your mixing bowl, because my dad will tell you, he still makes fun of me. I was trying to measure some salt into cranberry sauce one year and the lid fell off. So that was very salty cranberry sauce, so don't do it. Other than that, basically with all your ingredients, you want to make sure that they are, like with flour, like this flour is kind of already gotten pressed down. Like flour and cornstarch are really easy to get packed in and really tight, and you don't want that when you're measuring. So the first thing you want to do is mix it up, and then you want to spoon it into your measuring spoons and then level it. This is something I am really guilty of. I do not do this, which is why I end up with really dry doughs. And that's why, it's because I pack this in and it ends up getting even just a little bit packed, but it's enough to affect the recipe. So that's very important to remember. The only thing that I know of that you should pack into the measuring cups is brown sugar. There might be more, but for the most part, just brown sugar that you do want to press into there, and do want to make sure you press it in. So other than that, that's basically how you're going to measure most of your dry ingredients. The next type of measuring you'll be doing a lot is using measuring spoons. And these are the little spoons that say 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, and so on and so forth, parts of that. These are important because these are how you're going to measure out a lot of like the ingredients you only need a teeny bit of. And if you put a cup of something in there, it could very well just go completely, so you don't want to do that. The hardest part about teaspoons and tablespoons tends to be telling the two apart for people, because one is TSP and the other one is TBST. or TBS. I find that the easiest way is just to kind of think about it like text speak. Just take out all the vowels and you'll pretty much have a pretty good idea, because then that would be TSPN. So it would be pretty easy to be able to tell the difference then. So that is really helpful if you have a hard time, but you do want to make sure, because 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon are quite different. So you want to be careful with that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is how you measure liquid ingredients. So for here, I'm just going to be really boring. I just brought some water, I'm sorry. What you're going to do is you're going to measure those with these measuring cups, which are slightly different. They have a little spout, and they have a bunch of letters and numbers going up the sides. They have it in metric, and then they have it in cups. So, you know, yeah. And what's the most important about these is how you read them. If you read these wrong, you will have a completely wrong measurement. So you want to make sure you know how to do this. So it's very easy. All you need to do is make sure that your measuring cup is on a flat, stable surface. You're going to pour in some of whatever you're measuring. You know, kind of try to hit your mark, but you know, And then you're going to let whatever liquid is in there kind of settle for a minute so it stops moving around as much. And then what you have to do is you have to get at eye level with it, with that line of liquid, so you can properly read it. If you try to go from above it or below it, you're going to make it look a little wonky. So you want to make sure that it's on a flat, stable surface, and then you get down at eye level so you can actually see it. And that is really important for measuring liquids. Okay, and that's basically how you're going to measure a lot of the ingredients that you're going to come across while you're cooking. I do have a couple of tips and pointers for the things that don't really follow these rules as much. The first is just a reminder for the semi-liquid ingredients that are like yogurt and sour cream and things like that. You just want to make sure that you're measuring them with the dry measuring cups and not the liquid measuring cups, because they're not really going to pour well. So it's better to put them in here than in here. Another thing to consider is if you have to measure like food, like celery or vegetables, something that you're going to measure out and then put into a recipe, you want to prepare it how the recipe calls for. So if it wants it sliced, chopped, diced, and then measure it in the dry measuring cups. One of the hardest ones possibly is eggs. Eggs, generally in a recipe, it just calls for 1 or 2 eggs. It's not very specific, but eggs are graded based on their size, and there can be a really big difference between 2 grades of eggs. So the general default is large eggs, but a lot of people in their house will have extra large. That's very common in the grocery stores nowadays. So you'll just want to make sure that you check on that before you start making a recipe. And the last thing is just, if you have a question, if you don't know how to change something from ounces to cups, or don't know how to, you don't have like garlic powder and you need to see if you can use something else, or any questions like that, or you don't be afraid to ask Google. It's totally okay to Google it. In the end, nobody's going to really care how you made it. They just care if it tastes good. So it's totally fine to ask Google. So, and that's what a librarian's saying that, so it's fine. It's good. So that's pretty much all I had for you guys today. I hope you guys all learned a lot. I hope you guys are looking forward to our next one. Hopefully we will do either slicing and dicing, or we might do herbs and spices. You guys can let me know what you guys would prefer to do. And we will do that next month. Also, if you guys want, you guys can head over to our website. We do have a bunch of online programs going this fall for teens. So you guys can register for them and be notified whenever they're ready. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram so that you guys can see all of our cool programs here and be kept up to date with other stuff. So yeah, have a good day.